This sermon, I'd like to say a word of prayer. Let us close our eyes and bow our heads for the word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father that dwells in heaven, we thank you for all that you've done for us. We thank you for this moment in time. We thank you for all your blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We thank you for your continued protection that you have placed upon us. We thank you for giving your only begotten Son to die for us on Calvary. We thank you for the blood of Jesus that has covered us from this plague, that when the spirit of death came, it was able to pass over many of us, and we thank you for that. We would just like to ask you to be here with us right now and at this moment. Come into our hearts. Help this word to be received by the people. Help us to understand the words that are being spoken, and for them not to see me, but to see you, Lord. And name Yahshua the Son, we pray to the Holy Father. Amen. So we thank you all for being here with us. Happy New Year's. And we all know that this hasn't been an easy year for any of us, me included. There's been a lot of ups and downs, smiles and frowns, a lot of setbacks and getbacks. But a setback is just temporary for a great comeback. And we see oftentimes that the good steps of a man is ordered by the Lord. And because the Lord is here and he's blessing us and he's guiding us, we put out all our faith into God, and we just hope and pray that things will get better. I know oftentimes when we look at the news and we look at the different things around us, it's easy for us to get distracted, I can say, because of all the negative things that we see. But we need to understand and we need to know that because we are God's people, God will always be there with us. And because of this, I was asked to preach, and I did not know what to preach on. So I said to myself, let me just allow the Spirit to move and to speak to me. And the story that came to me was the story of Joshua. And for those that don't know, Joshua was the one that led the people of Israel after the death of Moses. And we all know Moses. Moses went through a difficult time. Moses basically was the person that God chose to lead his people out of bondage. But once they got to the wilderness and things got hard, the people often complained and blamed Moses for everything, every single thing. And they just kept complaining to the point where they said that they would rather be back in slavery than to continue to follow Moses. And because the people kept complaining and going back and forth, even after seeing all the miracles that God did, after God did the 12 plagues in Egypt, that forced Pharaoh to set them free, after God parted the Red Sea and helped them to get away from Pharaoh that was chasing them, after God helped manna to rain out the sky so that they could have something to eat, a flock of birds came by so that they had meat to eat. On top of that, Moses hit a rock, and when he hit the rock, water came out so they could have something to drink. But still, these people were hard-headed. Every time Moses left, they created false idols. They would melt jewelry and create a calf to dance around. And Moses was upset a few times, even going as far as breaking the tablets with the 10 commandments on them. And we see all these difficulties that they went through, all the hardships that these people went through, similar to the hardships that we went through, that we're still going to. Because at times God gives us specific directions, straight and uncut directions, and we choose to still do whatever it is that we would like to do, unfortunately. And because of their disobedience, they were stuck going around in circles for 40 years in the wilderness, over and over and over and over and over and over, up until the death of Moses. And because of their disobedience, God said that those that came before them would not be able to see the promised land. Moses saw the promised land, but he saw it from the top of the mountain. His feet were never able to touch it. So upon his death, he needed a successor. So God came to Joshua. And the first chapter of Joshua is a simple introduction. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister. So we know that Joshua studied under Moses. So, na parle de Joshua, nous connaissons Joshua, il était étudié en bas Moïse. Il était yon la ministère sa que Moïse. nous connaissons les Moïse de ça que peuple là, fait un pile des autres pour lui. Ils ont toujours fait fait mal. Ils ont toujours fait job là, ils ont essayé de faire très difficile. Même le bon Dieu de ça que Moïse a aidé à faire un grand miracle devant peuple là a toujours senti qu'ils ont plus bien, ou ils ont plus bien là, ils ont toujours esclaves. Juste là, Moïse était mourir, c'est là, ça tout le monde a commencé à crier, ils ont dit non, Moïse, allez, nous besoin de Moïse encore. And we see that today, you know, Moses went through all these hardships and he went through all these challenges, and when he died, that's when people decided to say, oh yeah, we miss him, can we bring him back? And we see that today in our world where oftentimes when we're here, no one really appreciates you, and then when you're gone, that's when everyone wants you to come back. And from what we hear, they mourned Moses for several days, not only just one day, but for several days they mourned the death of Moses because they felt that now they didn't have any more leaders. So here comes Joshua. And Joshua was told by God that he would lead the people of Israel into the promised land, something that Moses wasn't able to do. Bon Dieu te venu côté Joshua, il dit, c'est vous-même moi choisi pour qu'apporter peuple en pays à moi te gain pour yo. So Joshua said, how can this be? Because in order for them to go into Canaan, they had to pass through the river Jordan. And we know that the river Jordan wasn't an easy river for them to navigate through. So they were asking, how can we bring all these people over? Because there was over 40,000 people with them. They had over 40,000 troops with them at the time to go and fight. And the people of Israel did not have boats. So you thought, they qui j'en a fait traverser sous l'eau ça pour arriver côté à bon Dieu te voyer nous pour te point. So they were hoping and wishing and praying. They still did not understand how would they be able to cross the river Jordan and to the land of Canaan and to take over. The first city that they were aiming at was Jericho. And Jericho basically said, we have this big wall, we have the river Jordan, we feel protected by it from these people that God has put a special protection over. For those that don't know, at the time, a lot of these other cities, and they heard about the people of Israel. Israel. They heard about the stories of what happened in Egypt. They heard about God parting the Red Sea. They heard about all these things and they became scared. They said, if these people come after us, surely we will fall as well. But at the same time, they said, we have this wall, we have this river, we're going to be okay. And like I said, Joshua was almost like, I wouldn't say the reincarnation of Moses, but he was the one that picked up the mantle after Moses. So therefore, we know all these miracles that Moses had to do in order for them to really believe in him. So to be fair, we know that Joshua had to do things to prove himself as well. And God said something to Joshua. He said, the same way that I was with Moses, I shall be with you. And I think that's a powerful word in itself, because a lot of the times we see that, ironically enough, sometimes we base our blessings based on the blessings of others. Plusieurs fois, nous avons des gens, bon Dieu béni, l'autre monde, à cause ça nous dit, bon Dieu, moun sa servi, pas même bon Dieu, moi-même a servi parce que Jean, bon Dieu béni, moun sa, bon Dieu pas béni moi-même. A lot of times we look at the way God has blessed other people and we ask ourselves, if we are Christians serving the same God, how come we're not blessed? So we see here comes Joshua, and he's saying, I've been put in the shoes of a great man. I have to do all the things that this great man has done. How can I do so? And God comes with the reassurance. The same way I was with Moses, I will be here with you. Everywhere you shall go, I'll walk with you. Whenever you encounter an obstacle, I'll be there with you. Whatever you have to do, I'll be there with you. And sometimes when we're going through difficult times, it's very hard for us to believe that. It's very hard for us to believe that God is there with us. And we've seen that. Nous tous te voit ça. Année passée, nous tous passé bagay, nous pas des gens passés déjà. Même semaine passée ça, nous sur télévision côté yo crasé rentrer dans building gouvernement, back in last year we went through a lot of different experiences. We seen, we heard, and we experienced things that we never felt before, we never been through before. And because of these experiences, it caused a lot of us to question God. It caused a lot of us to give up our church. It caused a lot of us to take a step back, you know? And if I'm to be completely honest, I myself, I took a couple hits, you know? Même moi, il y a des fois, année passée, moi, j'ai demandé comme si bon Dieu là. Si moi-même, il a approché dans l'église, moi, t'es diacre consacré, moi, t'es directeur jeunesse, moi, t'es ancien consacré. Si, même moi, je t'ai gagné l'année passée, côté, m'te senti la foi, moi, t'ai gagné faiblesse dans la foi, moi. Qui ça nous quoi de l'autre jeune? Qui ça nous quoi de monde? Il fait baptiser, qui ça ou quoi de moun yo, la vie a plus difficile pour yo même, moun pas travail, moun pas connaît qui gens y a bas, foyer yo manger, qui gens la foyer yo konya. Me being the person that I am, so involved in church as I am, from being a deacon to being an ordained deacon, from being youth director to being an elder, to being one of the chaplains for the Franco-Haitian Youth Federation, all these church positions and all these things that I was doing in church, certain events happened in my life which caused me to question, where is God? And I know if I'm questioning where is God at times, I know other people that might be struggling with their faith, the youth, the young people, the older people, people that just baptized, people that's going through traumatic situations, people that have lost their jobs and don't know when the next meal is going to come, people that have been forced into a corner. Those people I know are asking themselves, where is God? So here's Joshua, a man that's filling the shoes of a great man, a man that's filling the shoes of someone that God used to free his people from Pharaoh, that God used to split the Red Sea. Here is that same man. And he's like, okay, how am I going to do this? And so he sends spies to Jericho, and he encounters a harlot, a prostitute named Rahab. Ironically enough, we see that the men of Israel are always getting help from harlots. I'm not sure why, but we see that they always find assistance. And when you're working for God, God will always send someone to help you along your journey. I remember when I first started my ministry, when I first started my companies, I didn't know how far I was going to take it. I didn't know how big it was going to get. I did not know how successful it was going to be. But one thing I did know is that God was going to be with me. And so God was there. And God started to bring people to me that would help me to achieve the goal, achieve the dream that God had for me. And so I started meeting people. People started helping me. People started coming, and together we was able to achieve and do great things because of this. And here's Joshua. Him and his people are getting assistance from a harlot named Rahab. And she hides his spies as they spy on the city. She gives them directions, and she asks for only one request. She says that when you come and you break down the city, because I've heard of you Israelites. I've heard about the Israelites. I've heard about your God. I know how powerful your God is. Everyone here knows how powerful your God is. Madame ne dit, moi connais des bons dieux, moi connais des peuples, moi connais tout ça, bon Dieu ou faire, moi connais tout ça, peuple à faire. Moi là pour qu'à aider nous, seul bagage, moi demander nous pour nous qu'à aider ça que c'est là nous vient craser, là vient craser quartier partie moi même ça que foyer moi. She said, when you come to destroy the city, when you come to destroy the people, just have mercy on me and my family. That's all I ask of you. And they said, okay, we shall do so. And she said that I heard about all the things that your Lord did, how he dried up the Red Sea when you came out of Egypt, and all the things that he did and how you destroyed all the previous kings. So I know that your people were powerful. Il dit, moi connais de tout ça, what que peuple a fait, so moi connais la foi, moi connais pouvoir bon Dieu ou gagner. You see, sometimes we as church people, we sit back and we question God, and we don't know that people that are not not considered church people that don't come to church every week, sometimes they have faith in our God based on the miracles that they see God is making in our lives as Christians. And that's why I tell the youth all the time that the only God that man will see is the God in you. Because you as a Christian, you are a living representation of God. God lives within you. He lives within all of us. There's something called the Holy Spirit. It connects us with God. And a lot of us, we seem to dim that. And we seem to be distracted by the things of this earth, you know? It's that little voice that you hear deep inside of you. That feeling, that gut feeling you feel down in your stomach. That thing that makes your heart beat really fast. That second thought that you have when you're about to do certain things. That is the voice of God. But oftentimes we dim it, right? When we want to do the things that we do, we get drugs and alcohol and we blame it on that, and we say, yeah, I was under the influence, so I did certain things. But to be honest with you guys, there is a God, and God is alive. I'm not saying that we're going to be perfect in life. I can't even say that I'm perfect, you know? I have my faults, I have my faults, I have things that make me weak. And it's at my weakest that my God is the strongest. Là nous gain faiblesse nous-mêmes, c'est là ça bon Dieu gain plus pouvoir. Yo gain trop temps dans la vie nous côté nous sentir nous ca faire tout par nous-mêmes seuls. Nous crois c'est nous-mêmes qui gain plus pouvoir, nous crois c'est nous-mêmes qui ca faire n'importe ça nous voulons, nous crois c'est tout ça n'a fait sur la terre c'est nous-mêmes qui a fait. We oftentimes forget that it was God that put us in this position. It was God that helped us to reach this place. So here's the people of Israel, and here they are with Joshua. They tell Joshua, we're going to follow you the way that we followed Moses. You dit Joshua, n'a fait des doigts, même Jean nous fait des doigts Moïse. Tout ça, ou demandez nous pour nous faire, n'a fait. Il dit, ok, moi, saute parler ça que bon Dieu dit pour nous croiser gloire. Joshua comes to them and he says, God has told me that we have to cross the river Jordan in order to get to Canaan to take over Jericho. Can over 40,000 people swim at one time? No. Again, here's where we see the power of God. God is going to tell us to do impossible things. Us as humans, our minds can't comprehend it. Bon Dieu a demandé nous pour nous faire baguer nous pas de gens quoi nous faire. Mais bon Dieu a demandé pour nous croiser en gros gros. Qui Jean? Jean? They're asking him, God is asking them to cross over the river Jordan. And they're asking God, and they're saying that they're going to follow Joshua, just like how they followed Moses. But we know that they're human. So they're asking themselves, really, how are we going to cross over this river Jordan? We don't have boats. We don't have canoes. How are we going to do this? And there's so much of us. There's over 40,000 of us. How are we going to cross over the river Jordan? So what does God say? I'm going to split the water. Just like how I split the Red Sea, I'm going to split the River Jordan. And when the River Jordan splits, you will be placed on dry land. You will send the priests with the Ark of the Covenant, and all the people and all the 12 and all the different people from the 12 tribes of Israel, they will go with you. And they will cross through the River Jordan on dry land. Similar to how you part the Red Sea. And we see this as a reoccurring theme that is occurring over and over and over, where God has to open up a path in order for his people to move through. I remember when I had to cross the River Jordan in order to move on to the next step that God had for me. Years ago, we merged, right? Two churches merged together, La Odyssey and Friends of Jesus, Ami de Jésus, and we became the River Jordan. And we used to have the saying that John the Baptist baptized Jesus in the river Jordan. And in order for Jesus to reach his ultimate goal to where he had to be, he too had to go into the river Jordan to be baptized by John the Baptist. And I remember when we were Jordan River, we had some difficult times. We had some great times as well. During that time was the time I could say that my formation started to take place. My maturation started to take place. L'être on a fleuve de Jourdain, les amis de Jésus, ça qui est là, on dit c'était venir l'église. C'est là ça, nous quoi, bon Dieu te conseille fort même, à fort même pour qu'à venir moun dans moyen aujourd'hui. I learned a lot during that time. That was during the time when I first got married. That was around the time when I was first nominated as elder. That was around the time when we were going through a lot of different transitions. You know, we had to deal with a lot of different personalities, a lot of new personalities. And we can say that it was during a time that could make or break a person. And during that time, I thought that would be one of the most difficult situations that I would have to go through. But yet, no, it was not. But it was one of the things that would help shape and mold me for the rest of my life. And the things that I learned during that time, during that transitional time, are things that I still carry with me till this day. En pile, leçon moi te apprendre là nous te fleuve de Jourdain, moi toujours qu'aime ça qu'aime jodi a. Juste là nous te vinn aimant côté fleuve de Jourdain, Elim, Gilgad, Sisha, tout vini yon. And speaking of Gilgad, Gilgad is mentioned in the book of Joshua. Gilgad is the place where they set camp after they walked through the river Jordan, and they each took 12 stones. Well, they each took one stone. Every person from one of the tribes took a stone until they had 12 stones. And he took those 12 stones and they set them down, and they said, we're going to name this place Gilgad. For we will remember what happened today as the Lord divided the river Jordan and the children of Israel were able to go and take over Jericho. So all these things are connected. From past there to even now, these things are still connected. And we see how the Lord works. We see how the Lord is able to work. And here these people standing in front of a river and God clears a path for them. Perfect example. We go through many difficult times where we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if we're able to get through it. But we need to know that God has already cleared a path for us. God has already cleared a path so that we can go straight and so that we can go and do His work. I feel like 2020 was that transitional period where we had to slow down. Année passée, t'es là, nous devons prendre chita, mettez comme haïtien yo dit, mettez dehors chita, pour nous te penser, pour nous te réfléchir, pour nous te lire la Bible, pour nous te chita ça qui foyer nous, pour nous te comprendre quand nous prie bien. Let man understand thyself. If you don't even understand yourself, how can you understand your mate? How can you understand your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, your husband, your children, if you don't understand yourself, if you have no understanding of God? So we see in life, we go through all these transitional periods and we learn from these transitional periods because these transitional periods is what is teaching us. And so they were able to cross the river Jordan, and when they were able to cross the river Jordan and get into the land of the Canaanites, all the kings started to worry and all the kings started to be scared, and they started to prepare for war. And by preparing for war, all the men were circumcised, all the men that were uncircumcised, because again, they were in the wilderness for over 40 years. So in that 40 years, new people were born, people came and went, and so the new army of God had to circumcise themselves in order for them to be ready for war, to fight on the behalf of God on earth. Remember, last year we spoke about circumcision, not circumcision of the genitals, but the circumcision of the heart. Removing the negativity, removing all of the things that makes us impure, that makes us dirty, and tossing it to the side, like the uncircumcised foreskin, in order for us to grow, so that we don't catch any bacteria or infection, so that we can be clean. Nous gen pou ka mette kon nou propre. Nous gen pou ka préparer kon nou pour les pou ka goumen pour bon Dieu. Les pou ka les bon Dieu relè nous pour ka goumen pour lui-même. Nous gen pou ka préparer nous. En plan nous pas préparer. A lot of us wasn't ready for the things that were going to happen this year. A lot of us wasn't ready for all of this that we see in front of us. A lot of us wasn't ready for the year 2020, for quarantine, for COVID, for the shutdowns of church and restaurants and schools and jobs. A lot of us wasn't prepared, you know? And because we lack that preparation, a lot of us suffer. And in the midst of all of this that is going on, an angel appears before Joshua. And the angel appears before Joshua to confirm their victory. But when the angel comes before him, Joshua doesn't know if the angel is for him or against him. So he asks. And this is in chapter 5, 13 to 15. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and he looked. And behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord, I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servants? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoes off thy foot, for this place where thou standest is holy. And Joshua did so. And this is a perfect example in itself. A lot of us are wondering who's for us and who's against us. A lot of us are wondering who are we for and who are we against. But this angel paints it perfectly. I'm not for you and I'm not against you. I come in the name of the Lord and the Lord only. I don't come in the name of a church. I don't come in the name of a conference. I don't come on behalf of elders. I don't come on behalf of any pastor. I don't come on behalf of any deacon or deaconesses. No, I come on behalf of God. And it's not for everybody to understand because your understanding is limited. Your understanding is only limited according to what you see in front of you. I pray that some of you receive that holy revelation. I pray that you do. But some of us, our minds are too carnal. We only see the things that are in front of us. Please, qui est-ce qu'on est pour nous? Qui est-ce qu'on n'est pas pour nous? Qui est-ce qu'on nous-mêmes pour? Qui est-ce qu'on nous pas pour nous? Nous est ça même dans l'église. Et après, nous est ça dans le comité, nous est ça dans l'église, nous chita ça que moun, nous connaissons, nous saké, même si moun dit un bagay la ka bon, bagay la ka mal, nous just aller ça que moun, parce que nous déjà fait des décisions pour nous camper ça que moun. Même si moun a tombé dans l'affaire, nous dit ok, n'a pas ça que moun ça tout parce que nous pas un choix. Pour ça mentir parce que nous avons un choix. Bon Dieu bon nous choix, bon Dieu pas forcer nous pour nous faire des droits. Bon Dieu pas forcer nous pour nous prier. Bon Dieu pas forcer nous pour nous lire la Bible. Bon Dieu pas forcer nous pour nous chrétien. Bon Dieu dit sauver, mais bagay pour faire. Si pas voulez sauver, mon cher, fais ça au pour faire. God gives us the free will to follow him or not, to be a Christian or not, to be baptized in fire and in the word of God or not, to be converted fully in your heart, inward and outward or not. God gives you the option to sin or not. You know, God gave us this free will. Many of us, we choose to do as thy will, right? To do whatever we want. We're like, okay, I'll do whatever I want. I got time to be saved. I got time to come. I got time to do whatever I want to do, not knowing that tomorrow is not promised. Knowing that these things of this world is only temporary, that they'll come and go. But the love of the Lord is everlasting, and only God can give you everlasting life. So when Joshua hears this, when he hears that the angel says, I come on behalf of the Lord, thy host, and he tells Joshua, you're now standing on holy ground because the presence of the Lord is here. Joshua succumbs to the power of God and he drops his face onto the earth and he prays and he says, forgive me for I am not worthy. So here's Joshua. And so he knows because he has seen this sign that God is with him, and God gives him specific directions. And so what does he do? God gives him directions. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round the city once. Thou shalt do this 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day thou shalt compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when thou make a long boast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpets, all the people shall shout with great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him. So they're giving them instructions. They're saying to circle the city for 6 days, and on the 7th day, you will blow your horns, and everybody will shout, and the walls will go down. So they're proclaiming victory. They're proclaiming victory and exact. God has given them exact directions on how to secure the victory. Just like how God has given you exact instructions of how to secure your victory. Bon Dieu a bayo direction Jean yo ka gen victoire. Même Jean bon Dieu déjà bon direction qui Jean pour même ka gen victoire. Bon Dieu a dit yo sa pi yo ka faire, pi yo ka gen victoire. And God has given all of us direction in order for us to be victorious, in order for us to be successful, in order for us to move forward, in order for us to reach the kingdom. But oftentimes we don't want to hear it. Oftentimes we don't want to do the groundwork. Oftentimes we don't want to be bothered. Oftentimes we procrastinate. To the youth, it's like when you're in school, right? And you have that paper due, and you know that paper is worth 40 to 50 to 60% of your grade, and you wait to the last minute to submit that paper. And I'm the same way. I remember being in grad school, and I did that for almost every paper. It was a paper, it was due at 12. I submitted it at 11:58, barely able to make it. And when I reached the final semester of grad school, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit on the last semester, and I was dragging myself. I was dragging myself to the finish line because a part of me and a lot of us, we do that. We subconsciously destroy the things that we are trying to build because of our fear of success or our fear to reach the next level. I knew once I was finished grad school, my life was going to change. I knew after December, after the year 2020, my life would never be the same. I knew after this, everything was going to change. Me as a person could not be the same. And in a way, that scared me. Same way it scared me every single time I made any major decision. Every single time, I went through a major change in my life. Chaque fois moi arrivé au côté dans la vie, moi côté moi connais la vie m'a changé. Moi commencer peur. Si vous ka dire la vérité. Moi peur parce que moi pas connais. Donc si vous ka dire la vérité, moi peur parce que quelquefois les nous pas ouais ça est devant nous, est difficile pour nous ka mettre toute la foi nous dans bon Dieu. So les nous peur pour nous ka mettre toute la foi nous dans bon Dieu. Nous tourner long, après ça nous commencer à pack along. Oftentimes in life when things get difficult or things are about to change or when things become hard, we start to get scared. When you start to get scared, that's when you're supposed to start to pray. Because really, when Joshua and his people were going around the city multiple times, they were shouting and praying, praising God. And on the 7th day, God delivered them. And just like how God said he was going to be with Joshua, the way he was with Moses, he was. Everything that God promised Joshua, he delivered. Everything that God promised to Moses, he delivered. And through Joshua, God delivered everything that he had promised to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So here we are today in 2021, in January, the first youth Sabbath of the year, of the new year. Everything that God has promised you, he will deliver. Oftentimes we get distracted. Oftentimes we start to fear. Oftentimes we start to question. Oftentimes we ask ourselves, where is God? What is going on? Is God there with us? Will God protect us? Will God help us? And why are we going through difficult times? Why is life so hard? Why are we going through suffering? We question all these things. And when we question these things, it's almost like we're questioning God. But God is there with you. God is going to be there with you through all your difficult times, through all your hardships. Trust me, I know. If it wasn't for my faith in God, I'll be gone a long time ago. I know some of you guys are going through difficult times where you feel like you don't want to live anymore. I know that feeling. I've been there too. And I know sometimes you guys could go through difficult times in life where it's like, okay, what can we do to change these things? And I know I've been through those things. I've been through those moments too. And because I've been through those things, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there, because God is there with you. God will be there with you. God will never let you go. And just like God was there with Joshua, God will be there with you. That's my sermon for today. I hope that it was well received by the people. I pray that this year is better than it was last year. I pray that you guys keep the faith. I pray that you guys continue to put all your trust and your faith in God. Whatever obstacle that stands before you, whatever army that stands before you, whatever city that stands before you, whatever authority that stands before you, God has the greater authority. N'importe ça y camper devant, connaît, comprendre, bon Dieu a toujours bon victoire. Bon Dieu a plat pour, bon Dieu a plat pika et do, ça que n'importe ça y camper devant. Bon Dieu pas jamais abandonné. So, with that being said, I'll close out here, and I pray that God is there with all of you. I pray that you continue to keep your faith. I pray that you don't give up. And I pray that this year for you is better than it was last year. This is my sermon for you. God bless and